for the win because the touchdown wins it, but he gets picked off.
This is how you know it was late at night, because Russell Wilson threw an interception. He just doesn't do it, but a really nice job at that linebacker getting width and depth. Russell throws it to him, huge return on the interception.
Sets up Chase McLaughlin, the rookie kicker, who nailed a 47-yarder at the end of regulation to send it to overtime. Here with a chance to win it. This one never had a chance, and so the game continued. And as a rule, if you give Russell Wilson another chance to beat you, he probably will, and he does. Look at him take off and run right here.
A little seam. That's all he needs is a little seam, put his foot in the ground, saw where defenders were, made sure to get down, no big hit.
So they're in field goal position, and Jason Myers comes through as time expires, a 42-yarder to win it. There are no more unbeaten teams in the NFL as Seattle wins a wild one, 27-24 in overtime. Russell Wilson continues to be, at this moment, the leading candidate for NFL MVP, and one of the reasons was on display last night.
Well, there was something on that 3rd and 3 run that just looked different. Although we've seen Russell make that play, it looked different in how they operated. So freeze the video. So San Francisco has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up top. This is called a load front. They had done it a ton that night. Well, 5 guys on defense right there, and then you got 2 down here. That makes 7. So if you're just going to go strictly protection, you can only go 5 offensive linemen with your back. So right now, Seattle is outnumbered 7-6. Now play it and watch what happens, because the nickel up top is going to be a blitzer, and he's going to come after Russell Wilson. Offensive line is able to pass it off, communicate, and make sure that Russell Wilson has a big seam to be a part of for the run. But this is the thing that stood out to me, is we're going to run it back from the top. Something happened that was the only time that it happened on this play, Greeny. Remember, I said 7 on 6, but this is a tight end right here. And what happened was Seattle, in this moment, decided to keep the tight end in protection. So now they can go 7 on 7, offense versus defense. And as we play it, remember that nickel up top comes, who picks him up? The tight end. If the tight end is not kept into the protection, that nickel comes unblocked, and this run never happens. I go back to it. Seattle kept the tight end in protection on 3rd down one time last night. Happened to be on that play.
So you're telling me this was a design play. This was a play that they at least saw that might come, and they were prepared for him to run with the ball.
It was either called by Schottenheimer or at the line of scrimmage, because you don't see it on the video, but the center is going right to left and starting to communicate. It was a check made by the offensive line and/or Russell. So it was really good by the whole organization in that moment to handle it.
The other thing he does extraordinarily well that I think sometimes doesn't get enough attention, maybe it's his baseball background, he avoids hits about as well as any quarterback who runs a lot with the football I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, it's the avoiding the hits. It's finding just the seam, right? Like he needed to step, find that seam, and to your point, don't take a hit and put the ball at risk.
Russell Wilson, chance for the Super Bowl and very much an MVP candidate. Now let's talk about players whose teams and seasons are hopelessly lost, and let's start with that guy. Saquon Barkley, sensational in general, of course, but a non-factor Sunday in a loss to the Jets. He ran for 1 yard on 13 carries. After the game, he was seen heading into the Giants' X-ray room. Coach Pat Shurmur, thoughts?
We saw Saquon went for an MRI. What can you share about where he's at with his injury?
Yeah, he was in today. He's feeling much better. He's fine.
Have you guys even talked about considered shutting him down for the season, or is that not even a consideration?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, says Pat Shurmur, and I understand it. Football, conventional football wisdom does not even bring load management into the conversation. But Mike Tannenbaum wants to bring it in here. If you were making the decisions right now with the Giants, would you be considering sitting a relatively healthy Saquon Barkley?
Yes, I would, because that's in the long-term best interest of your football team. Running back, unlike any other position, you only have a certain amount of tread on the tire, and you want to preserve him for meaningful seasons down the road. Unlike Daniel Jones, who needs every rep he can get, Saquon Barkley is what he is. He's a great player, and I would put him on the shelf until next year, where hopefully you make some other positive changes.
What do you think, Swagoo?
I agree with Mike, and the fact that you said relatively healthy is the reason why he needs to sit down. Listen, this is the face of your franchise. I know Daniel Jones is going to be a big part of what the Giants do going forward, but Saquon Barkley is going to be who everybody writes about. And to have him healthy for the rest of the way, when you actually do get good, is the most important thing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I always use this saying, don't give up what you really want for what you want right now. What you really want is Saquon to go be a 10-year all-pro tailback and dominate the NFL, but you want him to play right now. Gary Kubiak once said this to me about players, because everyone's going to go, well, how can you sit Saquon, but you don't sit this person or that person? And he said, I'll treat you fairly. I'm not going to treat you equally, because not everyone's equal in the NFL, and that's just the reality. And so he is a different animal.
Now, let me ask you a question. Because you're a general manager, and you walk in and you tell your coach, we're going to set Saquon Barkley for the long-term best interest of the franchise, and he says, but you're going to fire me if I lose all these games. How does that conversation go?
The reality is, hey, we're in this together. It's a partnership. All the decisions we make, when we make trades, when we trade back, this is one of the decisions we're making for the long-term best interest. Think about where Todd Gurley is, Greeny.
I have to stop you. The coach is not necessarily a partner in all of that. You and I both know you may very well fire him if they wind up 2-14.
That's right. But again, you're sitting there saying, like, this is in our best interest. We hired you for a reason to be the CEO of our franchise, and we're making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain, and we're going to hang in there through thick and thin, and we're looking for progress. And in Daniel Jones' case, if I'm Pat Shurmur, I got to get Daniel Jones playing better, and that's the trajectory.
Mike T, just tell the head coach best of luck.
Yeah, seriously.
But doesn't Saquon playing help Daniel Jones play
Yes,
better?
that's my question. Look, first of all, you're staying with the coach through thick and thick. You're not staying with him through thick and thin. Coaches don't make it through a whole lot of thin. Second of all, Daniel Jones, his development will be greatly enhanced by having a great running back behind him, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his job is going to be significantly easier week to week to week, and the defenses that he's going to see and learn from will be totally different whether Saquon's on the field or not.
Actually, ironically, Saquon Barkley really struggles in pass protection. You could actually make an argument that they have other running backs that actually pass protect better. And going back to the bigger discussion about, is your head coach going to be there? Pat Shurmur, along with a lot of these other head coaches, are being defined by how their quarterback is playing. Pat Shurmur's job right now is to make Daniel Jones a better quarterback. That's really where he should be focused.
You know what I tell Daniel Jones too? Without Saquon, best of luck, Daniel Jones.
Can I just make a quick observation? We'll move on. Just stay on this shot. Dan just drank my water. That's never happened in the entire time we've been sitting
that type of day.
I had a little thing in my throat where it's live television. I wanted to clear it up. I'm tearing.
And I need a new cup. Anyway, let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk about the brilliant Lamar Jackson. He had the run of the NFL season, going 47 yards for a touchdown with that spin move right there that left 3 defenders confused. On top of that, he threw 3 touchdown passes, and his head coach, John Harbaugh, was more than a little impressed as this sideline exchange suggests.
That's why they love you. Yeah. That's why I love you too. I know, baby. I love the way you play too. Appreciate it. You just talk, you just attack. All you do is attack. Hey, ball. That's all I know. Yep. I watch. That's how. All my life. You know me, little kids in this country. We wearing number 8 playing quarterback for the next 20 years. I can't wait to see it when I get older. But right now, I gotta get this. Right now, it's right. Yeah. Get it. That's right. Start with 1.
Boy, that is a great moment, and it's the reason why I hope we never lose these mic'd up players, because you get magic like that. And Hembo put this together yesterday, and it just went crazy on Twitter. Just look who he has outperformed in this season, and there are a lot of other numbers that would suggest he's having a start to his career that is, in its own way, as good as any player we've ever seen. What? I mean, I don't even know what the question exactly is. We've never seen anything like this guy. How in the world is this happening?
The interaction between him and Harbaugh was incredible.
Beautiful.
Well, how it's happening is because you had an organization. Ozzie Newsome needs to get some credit here. You had an organization that had a vision. Then you had an organization that took that vision and put the pieces around to make sure that vision was executed the right way, and then they applied it. So that's, I mean, because this is rarity in the NFL. To be honest with you, a lot of times in the NFL, teams will take a player and go, you have to fit into here, where they actually took the team and found the player and said, well, we're going to make sure that the team fits around the player rather than the player fitting around the team.
Kudos to the Baltimore Ravens, man. Look, to reiterate a little bit of what Dan just said, this is the like we all have watched the combine, and we watch people look at the 6'5" pretty quarterback, and he's gonna be the guy for the next 20 years of a franchise.
6'5".
Yeah, I know. And the Ravens, you were pretty too. You look good in a uniform. Anyway, when you think about what the Ravens committed to Lamar Jackson being a great player. Not only did they give him time, they also said, what do you like to do, Lamar? What are you best suited to do to help us win games?
And Dan, you said this yesterday, it's almost an indefensible offense because they can attack you horizontally as well as vertically. And if you take away their running game, Marquise Brown, you could hit a home run with him. That's what makes them so dangerous.
Listen, super credible people, and I do not mean this to be critical, were convinced he would never play quarterback in the NFL. Is he going to change people's perception of what NFL quarterbacks should be coming in?
Absolutely. And you know why? His character. The tape sets the floor. Character sets the ceiling. And Greeny, he has worked on areas he needed to get better, and he's a lot better, and he deserves all the credit because of his work ethic.
All right, we will take a short break here. I will get myself a new cup, and then Stephen A. is going to make his way in. It is what Swagoo has been waiting for since the end of LSU's win in Bama. Stephen A. on his way live. We will have that conversation. You won't want to miss it. And as we speak of Lamar Jackson this morning, here's the question. Who was the last player to win the Heisman and the NFL MVP in the span of 4 years? Lamar could be the next. Who was the last? That's the